Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture.com, and today we are joined by John Scott. He's an economist specializing in the retail food sector. He's also a speaker that travels across North America, speaking on this very topic that we're going to discuss today. John, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Sean. Nice talking to you again.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you again. It's been a little bit of I like chatting with you. Whenever something happens in the retail space, I know exactly who to call. And I saw this article in Fortune magazine that really caught my eye, and the fact that Costco is starting its own chicken farm for a third of their supply. To kind of give some of our listeners a context of that, that's 85 million chickens a year. This is a lot of poultry. John, what's your reaction to this news?
Well, I'm not surprised. A company like Costco, by the way, Costco is on a tear. They are simply growing faster than anybody else in the North American economy. So it's just a phenomenal success story. So they're going to look at two things. One is wherever they can create some efficiencies that make some sense for them, that make that their product going to market to their consumer exactly what that consumer wants. And realizing that the consumer today is after three things. What's in the food that's produced? And you'll notice that in that article they talk about trying to go antibiotic-free and cage-free. So what's in the food that's produced? Where is it produced? And again, they can talk about that because they actually produce it. And who's behind the food? Well, we are. We're behind the food. People want to know who the people are behind the food. So that's quite a trend. When I'm speaking these days, I talk a lot about that, but that's what the end consumer is looking for, and that's what the supermarkets are doing. So I'm not surprised that a Costco would do this. Now, the second question you might have, Sean, is anybody else going to do it? Well, it's like this. If you have the expertise in that particular area, by all means, somebody might move into it. I'm not just talking about chickens. I'm talking about any aspect of food processing and production. But most of the sourcing of product around the globe is done through companies that are very efficient and very good at what they do. And so for a company like Costco or anybody else to move into this, there has to be a very deliberate reason that they can't get exactly what they want from producers on a consistent basis. And that's really the rationale. So I don't see a flood going to it, but I certainly see possibilities going forward as some of these companies get bigger.
Yeah, when you talk about what the consumer wants, and I agree with that, but there's a lot of talk about the sourcing, where it came. Is this the kind of food production that the masses are really interested in, with the huge movement in locally produced and things like that? Does that fit into that mantra?
No, the locally producing, that's a whole different conversation. Let's just drop back a little. You have about 19% of consumers in the developed world, not in the developing world, but in the developed world, that are very conscious of everything that's consumed and how food is produced. And that's the group that's driving the agenda behind the trend towards natural, trends towards moving away from things like antibiotics, and they've become extremely influential, and they're coming from a genuine base of concern. And you have to remember that at the other end of the chain, those people that are selling to the consumer, I don't care whether you're a food service operator like a restaurant or you're a corporation selling through retail, you must be on the side of the consumer. If all of a sudden you're selling a product that doesn't meet the consumer's expectations, the consumer turns off and goes down the road. You must be the friend of the consumer, and that's the bottom line. So that's where when a Costco comes out and says, we're going to be antibiotic-free, we're going to be cage-free, this group, and it's not an organized group, but this group of consumers out saying, this is what we want, and they're saying, okay, that's where we're going to go with this kind of thing. And that is what's very much driving the agenda behind a lot of these things.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of chicken farmers that this raise some eyebrows. But think about the likes of people like Tyson. This has got to be a real sort of, because in this agreement is actually Costco building their own processing facility. So, it's definitely got to get the attention of the packers as well.
It'll get the attention of them, but do I see a massive groundswell for a ton of distribution companies moving into this area. I don't. But I do see, if Costco is going to do this, is opening up the opportunity for smaller processors to move into it and other retailers or end-of-the-chain operators to say, indeed, maybe there's an opportunity here. It's all about providing the very best experience and meeting the expectations of the consumers that they have.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting move.
Well, and so this is obviously a move in the poultry market. You know, could we see this kind of thing happen in the beef market?
Absolutely, you could. Oh, for sure. I actually thought about that when I looked at the original article. I mean, we've had vertical integration in many areas. Bakery, dairy, many areas in our economy, and we've taken that for granted forever. There's no reason why, now that we're moving to more certainty around the transparency of the product produced from basically cradle to consumption, that more companies might move into other sectors, and that could include the beef sector. It'd be a very interesting move by somebody.
Well, we always joke about how I've been to a lot of presentations in agriculture. We joke about how, most people go to the grocery store and think that's where the food was raised. This is not that far from that.
But I'm going to go back, Sean. I'm telling you, and I'm telling consumers or audiences this all the time. Just take a look at the cell phone you have and how often you pick it out in the day and check out where something came from. And it could be a piece of information you have. It could be a hockey player that's on a particular team. Realize that a consumer in a supermarket is picking it up and looking at what's in that product, where it came from. And so all of a sudden, you walk into a Costco who's got this new product and say, whoa, this is Costco. They developed it themselves at their own farms. We've got great confidence in these people. Away we go. And that's what the agricultural sector needs to understand. This transparency extends not just to the retailer, not just to the processor, but right down to the primary producer. Transparency is everything. And if you can provide that, then you minimize the need for or the interest of a company like Costco moving this type of direction.
So, John, though, do you think that transparency is the biggest priority? Because when I read this, I think of taking costs out of the supply chain. So, which one do you think? Obviously, both are important to them, but do you think transparency overrides the cost factor?
The cost factor is extremely important, but transparency is becoming paramount. Otherwise, you wouldn't see all of these companies at the end of the chain. Loblaws announced no more artificial flavors or coloring by 2017. All of the major retailers in Canada announcing they won't buy anything except the cage-free product by 2025. You won't see any of that stuff. You wouldn't see it unless transparency was paramount. So, this is big time. I mean, they're watching, the consumers are watching every move these people are making. So transparency is very, very critical. Very critical.
Well, if you live it's reported that the processing facility is going to be in Dodge County in Nebraska, creating 1,100 jobs and over $110 million in investment. So Dodge County is going to be happy. The chicken farmers across the U.S., I'm sure, are a little bit concerned. Hey, John, thanks a lot for joining us today, and we got to talk more often about food retail issues.
Hey, Sean, give me a call anytime. Love to compete with Ann Wasco.
Oh, there you go. The challenge has been set. Okay, John, thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Sean, thanks. Bye.